And before I get far into discussion of the gaming year, I want to mention and send a shout out to everybody who has thanked me for the availability of the Solo GM guide in paperback. I don't think I ever really did a video on that. It was Modifius that put it out in paperback, so I didn't really have any control over that, but it was successful enough in the cloth version that people wanted it in paperback, and it has been available, and I really appreciate the support of everyone who has purchased it and written to me about their experiences using it. And now we're going to get to my gaming year in 2024. All right, let's get into the best and one of the worst of gaming experiences I had in 2024. I think I've noticed a theme here, which is that it's not so much things that are like brand new, but things that are improved or honed or just done really, really well, even if it's not reinventing the wheel. And to start off, we are going to go to Kentalis. This is a single player and co-op dungeon survival game, pen and paper game, and it is an example of something that does not reinvent the wheel, but does it really, really well. It is a very well implemented single book, although there are a couple of zines that go with it that offer some more things, but single book game where you play an individual character who has attributes and character progression, as you can see here, who essentially is going through a dungeon and encountering enemies. There are events that you can come across. There are some thematic tables. There's potions. Again, nothing brand new to this world, but just done very thematically well. The enemies are all described evocatively. They have different skills that and actions that they can take based on a D6 roll that you may make in combat. And there are overlords for each of the dungeons, and they will impact play in a certain way. There's a lot of random tables to generate magic items and to find things and to have a randomized experience in your dungeon. I've done a video on it. I actually done probably more than one video on it, and you can check out the link to that. There is, I would say, a necessity or really preference for the organization of it to print out this fairly lengthy player reference guide that presents the material in a more organized fashion so that you can, everything is kind of grouped together. And there is a mechanic in this game that as you are mapping your dungeon, you're getting closer and closer to the lair of the overlord. You are increasing the tension in the game with die checks and things of that nature. And that adds to the theme of it. So it is recommended for people who want something a little more contained than, say, for example, D100 Dungeon is right now with all the books, or 4 Against Darkness is right now. It's a little heavier than 4 Against Darkness in terms of mechanics and also the theme, although I realize the themes of 4 Against Darkness, some of them are heavier, but this is a little bit of a kind of grim setting, but it is my go-to sort of one book dungeon crawl game right now, and it really hit a sweet spot and brought something to the table that I don't think is quite out there. So that is Kentalis. Excellent, excellent gaming experience this year. Another example of something that isn't necessarily reinventing the wheel, but is doing something in one volume that others have done as well, is Shadow Dark. Shadow Dark is let's see, we have a description of it. Nope. Shadow Dark is a one-volume book that is a sort of re-implementation, here we go, of a D20 system that is rules light, it's intuitive, it is everything you need is in this one book, and essentially you've got your standard 6 stats here. You are rolling a d20, adding your modifier, and that's how you do a check. Within this book, you have examples of play, combat. You've got a lot of random tables for different areas that you might encounter, artisan district or cave area. You also have a bestiary here that's pretty extensive. You have the ability to make some potions and things. Again, it doesn't do anything brand new, but it is very clearly done, clearly presented, and effective for solo. I've done a video on 10 reasons why Shadow Dark is great for solo. There is a solo supplement called, I think, Solo Dark, maybe, that I also showed in a video. It offers a little bit light oracle and a few more tables. I don't really even think it's necessary for solo play with this. To hear my thoughts more on how this runs solo, you can check out my 10 reasons why Shadow Dark is great for solo play. But I think just flipping through it, if you haven't seen that video, you can see that having random tables for these things is super helpful, as well as having these random tables with little events and things for various types of environments allows you to create a little world for yourself. So again, it doesn't do anything brand new, but it does it in a clear and compact way. And so I think Shadow Dark, for my play this year of a traditional rule set to try to hack it to be solo, was the best experience that I had. Along with traditional rule sets and things of that nature, I also love the upgrade to Nave. Nave is another non-solo rule set that offers a ton for solo players, and the second edition of Nave really emphasizes that with all of the different random tables that you have here that could work either with Nave or just anywhere else. And what I like about them is that they're pretty succinct, just suggestions of things. So you could roll up a street detail as just like a checkpoint or a roundabout or fresh paint, and allow you, as that, using that prompt, to bring that into the creation of your story. We have buildings and names of inns and types of food, missions and factions, and all of this, archetypes for NPCs or your main character, that will give you, again, the basis for creating a little narrative and story about your character. So you might be an edgy artist or a grizzled ranger. We've got personalities, and here specifically for NPCs, details and professions and goals. So all of these random tables, whether you use them with the Nave rules or not, are very useful for solo play, monster traits and powers. There is a magical creation system here somewhere that's enjoyable as well. And overall, here's the alchemy section. Overall, Nave in a very compact form it's a great light rule set, and it's a great collection of tables that have a lot of utility with other rule sets too. So this upgrade, which was published this year, really improves on and adds a lot of depth to the original Nave. I've done a video on the original Nave as well, and I will try to remember to put links to all of these things somewhere in the description if you want to see how they actually play and how I've actually made use of them. So Nave has made my list of the kind of top upgrades of the year for traditional rule sets. And to help with this type of play, one of the things I enjoyed the most this year was these solo gaming sheets that were put out by Perplexing Ruins. I also did a couple of videos on these demonstrating how they can be used to organize and help sessions. We've got dungeon ones, and we've got like an overland one here that has not only random tables, but things with traveling encounters and dangers, terrains that you may have, discoveries, and the notes with them indicate that they could work with a variety of different rule sets. I can't remember right now what I use them with, but the notes point to original D&D or the white box. Swords and Wizardry is also called out here as a possible rule set, but they're very broad in the best sense, so that you can apply them to a lot of different systems that you may use. And they just have, again, it's a very handy way of organizing things. I'm not showing you the game sheet that I actually played on. I think I used them in 2 different videos, and again, try to put the link somewhere, but it is a kind of contained way that then allows you, if you wish, to bring in other supporting material, which I believe I did various things like the Game Master's Toolkit cards or adventure cards, I think, and some other books of random tables that I have. But I think starting with something small and contained, you could do it just with this, but it enables you to then think like, what else do I want to add to it without feeling overwhelmed? So these solo gaming sheets, I think, are super useful, and I will be employing them moving forward in a lot of different games when I want this type of structure or a type of structure for my gaming. And before I get to my kind of final positive for 2014, I did want to touch on something that wasn't such a positive for me, which is Treacheries of the Troublesome Towns. This is tome 1. It comes in 2 volumes. I can't find the second volume at the moment. It is a 4 Against Darkness detailed book that allows you to create towns and livable cities and hamlets and villages that your party can travel through. And on the one hand, I love the fact of all the details that it gives you, and the fact that you can, within a very small hex, create, say, for example, an aristocratic mansion with all sorts of people living there, and tasks that you may be asked to do, and enemies that you might need to fight, and then move on and find all right, sorry about that. I think, to be fair to this product, I really need to get tome 2 here and show you it offers a ton of stuff that I think is great, but it just might be too much for, I don't know, for an individual style of play. So we've got town feature tables, eerie execution tables, a shop table of services that are offered. We have various menacing monsters. We've got threatening troublemakers, restless rabbles, and some quests that are given. These are the town tiles, and then each one of these is like coded. You could see these codes here correspond to codes in this book telling you what they are. You do need both books if you're going to play this, and you need the main rules at least. This is a supplement, but you need both of the volumes here. They are incomplete without each other, so that's a double purchase that you have to make. Then there's a town events table. It is a living town generator. I mean, it lives up to its own promise. I think the question for me is whether or not it added to my gameplay. And I tried it twice. I think once on video, I generated a town, and then another time separately off camera, I did. The problem was, like, generating the town was great. It was actually playing through it. It felt like so much detail that I almost felt like an obligation to spend a lot of time like on this one little tile, and it felt a little overwhelming for me in that regard. So I'm not sure how I land here. I mean, it's a lot of great content. If you are certainly a For Against Darkness completionist, you would want it. I'm glad I bought it. I just haven't really been able to figure out how to effectively use it. And I think that maybe a more selective use of some of the features, although they don't really, they're not going to really go into a dungeon. So I don't know. I don't know. I'm going to go back to it at a certain point, as I always do. I always come back to For Against Darkness, as I've done so many videos on that. And if you watch the channel, I think I have 25-ish books that I've bought over the years for material there. It's probably, if I think about it, the game that I sunk the most money into, I'm thinking. So I don't know. This one was a mix for me, and I was really, really, really looking forward to it. Maybe some of it was that level of anticipation just didn't pan out. I have been looking around online to see if there are other videos showing people really getting into the detail of playing this in a significant way, and I haven't really seen that yet. So maybe this is a common issue with people. I don't know. There's certainly a lot of material here that you could make use of in other For Against Darkness games, even if you didn't play out the whole town. So that, that's my ending on a mix. But as I don't want to end on a mix, I'm going to actually end on something that continues the discussion from earlier in the year. I want to talk about from this year in gaming, at least, is the Dungeoneer Design Journal project that I discussed at the end of last year, or maybe the very beginning of this year, that I was going to do. I was going to take these journals and make use of drawing throughout my gaming year and see how or whether that impacted things. The journals themselves, there's the weekly one here and the daily one here, and I'll show you the insides of both of them. They each have the same beginning part, which is explaining possible ways to use it. There are a lot of tables here, so you could choose to use them based on the tables, like beginning here with rolling on this encounter table here, or like what the idea is. There's an oracle table. There are some trackers here for your daily, usage. And then we have some idea generators. So we've got this adjective, genre, setting, D66 table, fantasy objects, cyberpunk objects, horror. Goes through lots of generic things that you could use. This is not a rule set, but just tables here that you might make use of, and perhaps in using these tables, maybe draw the things that you rolled up. I actually never did that, I realize, but one could do that. There's a town generator. I didn't use these tables so much in conjunction with my drawing, I'll say, but I think I had used them, I had pulled them into other games and used them. I thought at the outset I would really journalize this, so I began with this quote from Villette, which is a Charlotte Bronte novel from 1853. The legend went unconfirmed and unedited, but still propagated that this was the portal of a vault. And then these things, this is not a journal as in a personal journal. These entries have to do with some game that I played here. And the way I did it here, so this was from December 8th, 23. This is what the game was. This was from the Hack and Slash compendium, and however I played that and the drawing that I did. And I will say, continue to do this. A lot of this came from into the Cess and Citadel book. This was on my channel, and just allowed myself to kind of make use of visual representation to see how it impacted my gaming. And I will say that actually it did impact my gaming in a very positive kind of way. I enjoy having the record of this. This comes from, now we're into For Against Darkness, Treacheries of the Troublesome Towns. And again, you've seen some of this. If you've been following my channel, you've seen some of these in videos that I do. So even just something as small as this, I was experimenting with some lettering and things, and that kind of became evocative. This was just like a random drawing that I did, and I feel then we getting into here. This was Stonebringer that I played, and we get into a bunch of dungeon stuff. This is 2d6 dungeon level. And so these drawings are based on the prompts in that actual game, and I was actually playing through that game. This was the Librarian's Apprentice. Didn't really get far there. Some kind of world map drawing games, not just dungeons. And then again, just a random something that turned into kind of a nothing in terms of a game. And I really did continue to do it. I didn't use this entire book yet. This is back to, I like this dungeon here. This is, I think, 2d6 dungeon level 4. And then I was back to Treacheries of the Troublesome Towns here. And that was the book that I probably used more of. The bigger design journal is the one that I'll just show you. These are like almost daily pages. So you have your dot grid and your section for notes. I didn't use it as much. So it also has the charts and tables. They kind of run sideways here, but they're the same content. And here was my 2d6 realm that I drew, where I had the loss of Silverfoot. You may know who that is if you followed that those series of videos, and it led to the rise of his ancestor Eleanor Silvertoe. And I've got a picture of Eleanor Silvertoe somewhere here, courtesy of one of my kids. But again, just a lot of experimental stuff. Some of this connected to the larger drawings that the larger scale drawings that I had. So here's this Countess again from the Troublesome Towns, and I would just kind of play back and forth with that. So let's see if we can find, this was this ended up being my favorite drawing, I think, that I did. I called the Guild of the Looming Relic. That came from a series of cards that I was pulling, but again, didn't really turn into a game, but it was gaming. And so along the lines of everything that you do is part of solo gaming, I think that the use of the journal really allowed me to enact that and elaborate that with the act of drawing, the function of thinking about things. This was here some sort of encounter that I had from 5 Leagues from the Borderlands. 5 Leagues is something I haven't yet done on the channel, but I have been playing on the side. I don't really have or use minis, but I was using drawing instead of that for those types of rules. And, it worked out. It definitely worked out. Here's one of my daughters. This is Celestial, the Mystic Wizard, with her little familiar there, and so on. And this series came from another game I did not present on the channel, which is Beak, Feather, and Bone. It's kind of, I think it plays well as a drawing game. I haven't done a video on it yet because I haven't really figured out how to make that super interesting, but it was an enjoyable game. And I experimented just with some lettering and trying to, maybe improve certain aspects of my drawing style. So learning how to do something like this and make this like haunted forest with a label. And I got pretty into drawing these funny kind of little map things that just give the sense of place. None of these ended up being in games, but I ended up doing that quite a bit. And this is back another Beak, Feather, and Bone game. And I'm going to end, if I can find little Eleanor Silvertoe that my daughter drew. And here she is. Here we go. So here is Eleanor Silvertoe, the witch. She also has a familiar. There's a theme there, and she's going to be coming up actually in a theme in my little segment that's coming up in this video to talk about what I'm going to be doing next in the next year. But we'll just finish up here. This was my experiment with caves and catacombs, trying to run a bard and a druid together through. That totally did not work. They died really quickly, but I did some nice drawing out of it, and I focused on when I was in the place, in the room, instead of mapping out just like corridors and things. I tried to draw like there was in the pit trap, and I made my notes here. So I think this is how I came to use this book. And as you'll see, I have plenty more pages to go here because I didn't really do it as much as this book, but the combination of the two did actually add a dimension to my gameplay that I think is going to stick around, because on the 2d6 dungeon and such, at least I get to keep these together. I did play some 4 Against Darkness. I don't think I made that so much into this book for some reason, but I like the idea of keeping these things as a record together. And now, just to finish up, I want to talk about some of the games I'm going to be playing early in 2025 and sort of actually late in now. I haven't played D100 Dungeon, I think possibly all year. And I received from the designer the latest volume in it. This is book 8, which is the Forgotten Tome of Curious Rules. And following along the plans of this game, there are developing in all of these different books that are here and accessories, kind of rules are spread out among the books. Some of the books have more rules than others. Some are more adventure paths, but there's some cool rules in here that, well, first of all, I was going to create a gnome. If you follow my channel, you know how much I love gnomes. I think I'm actually not going to do that. I'm going to make my character a wood elf, and my character is going to be Eleanor Silvertoe. So Eleanor is going to come back in D100 Dungeon, and she's going to be a wood elf, and I'm in the process of creating her now using the rapid creation rules, or whatever they're called, from volume 2, which allows you to kind of skip the practice building quests. And this book has some rules that go along with the dungeon, the world generator. Let's see, that's the World Builder, book 6. So I created a wood elf because we might have some outdoor stuff here, and we have rules for managing your property and things of this nature. There's also ammunition rules, and I'm giving her a ranged weapon as a wood elf. She's going to have a bow, and there are rules here to search for ammunition. D100 Dungeon had not had ammunition tracking, which I always sort of felt, given the level of tracking in the game, was odd. But now we have some rules for ammunition and equipping it and running out. So I'm excited to play with that rule. We also have a ranged attack rule and a way of if a monster escapes, like trying to get one last shot in to the monster as it escapes. We have some new tables here for herbalism that go with some rules. The herbalism action here, this is also from the World Builder, where you can find things and collect herbs and make items with them. So just take a quick look here and see how we do that. So you can collect items, there are recipes, and you can make types of potions and things like that. I love that. I don't know that I'm going to put Eleanor into an entire world, but again, with my gameplay, and it certainly fits this style of game, you can pick and choose. The other thing that I wanted to point out here is there's this monster thing. So there's some rules here for reflecting the fact that you may encounter augmented monsters in the game. And so if you encounter one of these, you can roll a d10 if you want to see what you got, and then the monster is going to have some special ability, usually something bad. It's a monster after all, but you're going to be getting additional benefits from killing the monster. So this adds some a concept called honor points, and you will get honor points for killing those monsters, and you can use them to do these various things here. So I think the honor points was originally introduced in a different book. I can't remember what, but now they're also attached to the monsters here with these rules. And then there also are some unidentified. There's rules for unidentified things that you may find, and you might not know what it is. And there are rules for identifying these things and naming them and giving them values and things like that. So I love all of this. And there are also some movement rules added here. So there's a new mapping table that we can see somewhere here with spaces, and everybody has, if you choose to use this rule, it's optional, obviously, you can give yourself a movement roll and kind of track your movement actually through the space as you go. And you can also do a test to kind of rush through a space, move a little bit more. So again, it just adds another level of complexity or realism, if you will, to the game. And this is one of the things that I do love about D100 Dungeon. One of the things that's challenging about it is, and I've got here, these are sort of the volumes that I'm using to make my character and to play, because they all have rules spread out among them that I like to use. It is a bit of a table hog at this point, I guess is one way to say it. And there's a lot of maintenance that you need to do in terms of tracking things and looking up different rules and deciding what you're going to play with. You know, there's just a wealth of material here, and I haven't even begun to plumb the depths of all of the different tables and all of the different books, and I've played this game many, many times. I get asked on the channel if I have any ongoing campaigns or things like that, and the only thing I really do have continuing are my various D100 Dungeon characters. I save them all. Sometimes I will bring them back out because they're all kind of slightly different. So Eleanor Silvertoe here, as mentioned, she's going to be a wood elf following the sorcerer hero path. And really what I did with her is I did the fast track adventurer, so I got a lot of damaged goods that I ended up selling for a lesser amount of money so that I could target this longbow that I wanted to buy that gives me 3 damage. So basically she's got a longbow. She doesn't have much by way of armor. She just has like a leather cloak. She has a bunch of potions. I haven't finished making this character yet, but you could see here, I did print out from the new book. This is to allow you to do the herbalism and your recipes and your herbs and things. So I at least have that. I don't know, I'm not even sure what she's going to be doing at first. So I don't know if I'm going to have her outside or whatever. As a wood elf, she does get a benefit on her hunting and her fishing. Now, I don't know I can't remember what you use for collecting the herbs, whether she's going to have a benefit to that or not. But in any case, D100 Dungeon is coming back into my rotation because I received this Forgotten Tome of Curious Rules with some great rules, and I find that the books that come with the rules mostly are really good. I also really like the Lost Tome of Extraordinary Rules. You can refer to my D100 Dungeon playlist. I've done a bunch of videos on this game over the years. So that's sort of the first thing I'll be playing most likely next year. And then the other thing I wanted to show you briefly is something I purchased kind of on a whim. It is very big and heavy. This is not a solo RPG, His Majesty the Worm, and it that title comes from a Calvino novel. I'm a big fan of Calvino, but not particularly that novel, The Castle of Crossed Destinies. This game uses tarot cards for everything. It uses them to create characters, it uses them to create monsters, and it uses them and has rules in here for using tarot cards to make a dungeon and make a city. And as such, I think it is probably very hackable to play solo, because the GM in this game is using tarot cards to make their rulings, and the player themselves in combat will draw, I think it's 4 tarot cards, and then look at what they have to play in combat. So I'm fairly certain this is a good way to have a solo situation happening with a couple of, we've got the major and the minor arcana in terms of who's has what, the GM or the player. So I'm going to spend some time with this. I've begun reading it a little bit. It is, it's very unwieldy. It's on quite heavy paper. It's quite big, but I think that there's potential here. So you may see this on the channel if it develops. It certainly is. It's been a fun read so far, and I like the concept of using these cards in this manner. So that is a little preview into what's up next year, and wishing you all the best for the next year.